Hello, my people. Today we are talking about family. As you all know, that the traditional family life in the West have been disintegrated. It's disappearing very fast. You know what I mean? The only people that you see that sit together like father, mother, and son and children, sorry, are those that married maybe 20 years ago in the West. But if you look back at those that are married 5 years ago, most of them have, broken up. They're not together anymore. And when this breakup comes, children suffers. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna relate this to Africa because marriage is not something that the colonial masters brought to Africa. Our forefathers in Africa already have this marriage institution, and it was very strong, or it's still very strong in Africa, because in Africa, you don't hear people like address themselves like that. You know what I mean? You don't hear people saying that, uh, uh, my dad or my mom broke off, when I was 2 years. You know what I mean? Or my dad left my mom when I was 5 years. You know what I mean? Or I come from a single mom. You know what I mean? This is not coming from a single mom. Children coming from a single mom. I know it's not their fault, but it's not something somebody should be proud of. You know what I mean? If you're a single mom, without husband, it's not something you should be proud of. But in the West, they're proud of it. And when you see stuff, when you see Africans expressing themselves in this way, oh, I came from my mom was a single mom, or my dad left us when I was 6 or 7. You know that Africa is getting into big trouble because it's this traditional married life that is still holding Africa together. You see the pillar in Africa, but once it's gone, because we have seen that a lot of stuff is disappearing in Africa, and if we don't take time and this one disappears, you know that Africa is gone. And it's possible this can happen because because of social media. You know what I mean? And when our people that addicted to social media and are watching, how this the Western lifestyles, you know what I mean? That embracing it gradually, you know what I mean? And because if you start seeing somebody saying, "Oh, my mom was a single mom," you know that there's problem. There's snake in the wall. People used to say that there is when somebody said that there's a snake in the wall, it's a problem behind. Problem is coming behind. You know what I mean? So once you see that in Africa, this traditional family is gone, Africa is completely gone, because we see what is happening in the West today. That that traditional family life is gone, and it's all chaos. Even though many people want to live in the West, the Africans, they want to live in the West. But one thing that you don't, even if you are anxious to live in the West, is that the West, even if you bring your wife or your husband to the West and live, it's like 20% chances that two of you will be together and see your children growing up. Or even if two of you manage to stay together, your children will suffer this consequence of disintegration of traditional family life, because you're not gonna you're not gonna be able to influence your children more than the society will influence them in the West, so that they're gonna get married. Your daughters might have become a single mom, or your boys might become like single dad. You know what I mean? Because this is turning to be the norm in the Western world, which we don't want to see this in Africa, because it's gonna be more problem for Africa. Peace.